What's going on, dudes? Nick here, or RGA Gaming, and welcome to episode 1 of Coding Your Plugins, dudes. Now, this video is going to be pretty awesome. I'm going to walk you through a pretty simple plugin here, and it's not geared towards absolute beginners. Like, if you have no idea how to code, you're probably not going to get a ton out of this video, but if you've got some basic ideas, then you're probably going to have fun here. Now, before we begin, guys, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for helping to push me to do this, because I love programming. I love doing stuff like this, and I want to see if we can hit 2,000 likes on this video. Now, if we can hit 2,000 likes, then I will go ahead and I will code the next most upvoted plugin, as long as it's not something that is just ridiculously massive. And let's just see if we can hit that. If you guys like this video, let me know by hitting that button, and let's get into the tutorial. What's going on, dudes? Nick here, or RGA Gaming, and welcome to my very first coding video. Today, guys, it's gonna be a simple one. This video series is gonna be basically me creating the plugins that you guys suggest, so make sure to follow me on Twitter at RGA Minecraft and leave a comment below with what you think I should code next. And who knows, maybe you'll see your thing on here. Now, the first thing that we're gonna do today is from Violet Raccoon. Basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a plugin so that every time Donnie shift clicks, it's going to lay an egg. So this is going to be pretty good. Now, my tutorials that I'm going to do, guys, are going to be based around having some pre-existing programming knowledge. You don't have to be an expert to follow what I'm doing, but I'm not going to say, okay, this is how an if statement works or any of that stupid low-level stuff, the beginner stuff. So if you're a beginner, there's lots of beginner tutorials. This is more of just kind of like a quick overview of how to create a plugin, how to get it to work, do some testing, and hopefully we can do a lot of debugging and some of the more advanced stuff, because debugging is probably like 90% of programming. Like, it's easy to write code, but it's really hard to try to figure out why one thing isn't working properly, especially once you have like a giant program. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to create a new project, and we're just going to right click and go to new, and we're going to click on project. And you should have a Maven folder. Right now I'm just using Eclipse. Eclipse is what I used to do all my Java programming in. So by default, I believe it comes with all the Maven stuff that you'll need. Just create a new Maven project. And on this thing here, when it asks you where you want your workspace to be, just select it. The first time you launch it, it should ask you where you want to store the workspace. The workspace is basically where all your code is going to be stored. So put it in somewhere that you're not going to forget where it's at. But for this one, always create a simple project. Skip archetype selection. Hit next, and this is where we're going to name it. Now, the group ID is usually, if you have multiple projects that you're working on, you can kind of name them similarly. Like, usually I'll put like com.rga Minecraft, whoops, if I could spell, and then dot the project name. So this is going to be dot, we'll call this one Donnie Egg. And we're also going to call the artifact ID Donnie Egg. And then the version is going to be version 1. And leave it as a jar. And you can give it a name and description if you want. I mean, you don't have to. You could finish it right here. I'm not going to. It's one of those things that, like I said, you don't have to do it, but you can if you want to. So now on the side here, you're going to see that we have Donnie Egg. And that is the start of our project. So basically, right now, there is absolutely nothing in here. And that is how we want it. We don't want a lot of junk in there. But before we even get started, we're going to need a special file. Now, I'm going to copy the file from another project just to make sure I've got everything right. In fact, I don't even remember how to create the file or what the contents are, only because you do it once per project and then you never really do much to it unless you're adding permissions or commands and stuff. So we'll go ahead and do that here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go to, let's just go to anything here. We'll go to Spleef and we'll copy it from there. So under the resources folder, we're going to copy the plugin.yml. If you guys don't have a plugin.yml, it's really easy. All you have to do is go to your source main resources and go to new and create a file. And we're going to call it all lowercase plugin.yml and hit finish. So now we have a plugin.yml file there. And what we're going to do is right click on it, open with, and then we're just going to go to text editor. So that way it'll open up in here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this contents from this file here, and I'll show you guys how to do some stuff. So this is how the file normally looks. You can see that this here is from my Spleef plugin. So we don't really need any of this stuff here. We're just going to delete everything out. I'll leave one command here because we're going to need a command, and I'll name that here in a second. And this stuff here is if you want to get into permissioning. We'll do some of that stuff later, but for now, basically, I'm just going to get rid of the guest stuff, so we don't really need any guest stuff. Admin stuff, I mean, you don't really need any of this stuff here. The permissions are actually going to be controlled in this line right here. So the other stuff you don't really need unless you want to have different groups or stuff within your code, I believe. So what we're going to do is get rid of the start, and I'm going to rename a few things in here. So first of all, name is going to be Donnie Egg, because that is the name of our project. And the main, we will come back to this here in a second once we actually create our main. And you probably don't know what that is, but we'll get there in a sec. And we don't need any soft depends on here because this doesn't depend on anything. This is version 1.0 and commands. So we're going to leave this in here because like I said, we're going to reuse this here in a second and we'll go from there. Now the stuff in this plugin.yml is required. If you do not add the plugin YML, when you're viewing your error logs, it will say something like, you know, trying to load plugin but does not contain plugin.yml. That's why you didn't add this file in here. And it really does have to be accurate to like the name of your, especially your main routine. Let's just go ahead and create that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the source main Java. We're going to go new and we're going to go class and we're going to call this main. And basically now this main program or this main file can be accessed through donnieegg.main. And what we need to do is we need to go back to our plugin file and change this to donnieegg.main. So why this is so important is because like this is what tells you the Java server what to actually load and execute within your plugin. If you just said, okay, if you just hand it the plugin, it would be like, okay, so this is a plugin. Where do I start? Like if someone tells you, okay, well, you're gonna have a race, you'd be like, okay, well, where do we start? Where do we end? Well, basically that's what this is doing. There's gonna be entry points and exit points in here, and we'll go over that in a second. So, like I said, the Donnie Egg is the project, the main is the name of the main file, and now we can go ahead and save this and go back into our main and start doing stuff here. Now, before we can actually start coding in our main file, we're going to need to link it to the Spigot version that we're using. And if you guys don't have Spigot downloaded, you can go online. There's a few different websites that you can download the Spigot jar and use that one. So I've already got them downloaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the project and go to properties and go to Java build path. And what we're going to do is we're going to add an external jar. And basically in this folder, I've already got all the different Spigot builds in here. I think the newest one I've got is the 1.12. So I'm going to use that for now. So I'm going to load 1.12. And now you can see spigot-1.12.jar is now in here. And that gives us the files that we need to actually go ahead and create the Minecraft plugin. So once that's in there, we need to put in extends and Java plugin. So basically, when you first type this in, it's going to say, I don't know what Java plugin is. And what you can do is you can put your mouse over it and click on import Java plugin. Or if you don't want to do that, you hold control and hit space, and then you can double click on the one that you want. So now you can see that that works, and we now have our main class. There are two things that we want to add into our plugin, and that is going to be the on-enable and on-disable. You don't necessarily have to do anything on disable. You should clean up your code, but that's going to be, you know, in later videos we'll do some stuff there. But basically, to get that going, you need to put @override, and then on the next line, public void on enable. And there we go. So that is going to be the on enable. We're going to copy that. Whoops, I cut it. And we're going to rename this one to on disable. There we go. So basically what's going to happen here is when your code enables, it's going to run this one. When your code disables, or when your plugin disables, it's going to run these two. So for example, if you wanted to have a timer that runs every single second, you're going to put that in here. So when your plugin is enabled, it's going to create that timer in here. And then when your code gets disabled, you stop the timer down here or whatever you're doing. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have these or use them, but it's good for setup and closeout work. One of the things I typically do with the on enable is I will create a public static Java plugin, and I will call this a plugin, plugin. And initially we're going to set it to null. And what I'm going to do is on disable, we're also going to set it to null. And on enable, we're going to set it to this. Now, right now, this isn't doing much for us, but in later tutorials, we will have more to do with this stuff. And having this stuff here will create a nice little base for you so that when we go to make our next projects, we can kind of copy and paste a lot of this stuff. All right, so now on to the actual fun part. Basically, how Spigot works is it's very event driven, and you can hook into different events so that when they happen, you can kind of intercept them and do certain things when those events occur. And there's a few different ways to do that, and I'm going to show you how I typically handle that here. Now, to make sure that Spigot knows that your plugin wants to handle different types of events, you actually have to register yourself with it so that when events occur, they forward it onto your plugin as well. Now, like I said, guys, you don't really have to understand how this works behind the scenes. I'll kind of explain how it works once we get in here. But in order to get that, whoops, crap, we need to put git server dot get plugin manager. And actually, this didn't work, so we have to use control space I use for everything. Casing is also very sensitive, so as you saw, originally I typed git server, and it was lowercase, but it had to be uppercase. So git plugin manager. So if you don't know what the whole thing is, you can hit control space, and it'll kind of auto-suggest some of the different suggestions there. So we're looking for git plugin manager, and we're going to register events, and we're going to put this, comma, this. Now you notice that it is underlined in red. And one of the reasons that happens is because we don't actually have our plugin handling events. So what we need to do is we need to implement listener. So what we can do is let main implement listener, and you can see it adds implements listener here, and now it is no longer red. So basically what happens is, like I said, Spigot, what it will do is it'll run through, and like, let's say you click. Well, that's called a click event. And what it's going to do is, it's actually an interact event, but basically we'll call it a click event. So basically what happens is anytime you do something in the game, like if you dig a block or mine a block or right click a bucket of water, it's going to throw an event up, and it's going to say, okay, Spigot, this player just ran the break block event. And Spigot will go, okay, I'm going to do what I normally do, and then I'm going to look through every plugin, and I'm going to forward this to any plugins that are listening to these, specifically to the break block event. Now, the event that we're going to be concerned about here is the interact event. So that's the event we're going to trap, so that when Donnie is shift clicking, it's going to make him lay an egg. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a public static void, and we're going to name it on interact, because that's what is happening. You can name it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. But what does matter is what goes inside the parentheses here. Right here, we're going to put player interact event, and of course it went outside the parentheses, so put it back in there, and control space, and you can see there's player interact event. And what it does is when you select it, it says imports org.bukkit.event.player interact event. It allows you to use that. And what we need to do is call it something. So this is the variable we're going to use. So I'm just going to put O event. I like O in front of things that don't have a specific object type. The O in my mind stands for object. So it is the event object. If it was an integer, I could put like int, and then, you know, whatever you want to call it, int number of lives. So you know it's an integer. I mean, it's easy enough to scroll up and see, but it's just a force of habit. Now, one thing missing from this is, even though it looks like it's right, it's an on-interact event, and it handles the player interact event. There's a special character you have to put up here in order for Spigot to know that this is what gets called when the player interacts. So even though it takes in the player interact event, we need to actually tell it that this is the routine that we want it to handle. So what we're going to do up here is going to put at event handler. And it's red because we haven't used it before, so control space, imports org.bukkit.event.event handler. So there we go. So now basically it's saying that this routine, the routine right after this at event handler, handles the player interact event. So when a player interacts with anything, left click or right click or steps on a pressure plate, any type of interaction, it's going to call this routine. So what we want to do is we want to see a couple different things. We want to see, is the player Donnie Bobes? Is the player left clicking? Because that's what the original request said. And are they shifting or sneaking? So those are all things we can check through this event. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a few of the things from the event, and you don't have to do it this way. You could access them directly, but I kind of like doing this because some of this stuff might get reused later. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a player object, and I'm going to call it OPlayer. And actually we need to control space this because we haven't imported the player yet. And we're going to set it equal to oEvent.getPlayer. So now we have a reference to the player who is doing the action. And then underneath that, we're going to put in our if statement. So we basically got everything that we need from the player to figure out what we want to do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put if player dot get name. And some programming languages, what you could do is you can say if get name equals Donny Bobes, then you could do stuff. But the problem is Java doesn't handle this the same way. It doesn't treat them as string compares. It treats them as like object compares and some weird stuff that doesn't actually work. So what you have to do instead is you have to say dot get name dot either equals. So you could do dot equals Donny Bobes, or if it's case sensitive and you don't care about the casing, like let's say Donnie changes his name to a lowercase b. Well, now this code's not going to work because his name doesn't equal capital D, lowercase I, or ONI, stuff like that. So what we can do is equals ignore case, which tells it, okay, well, as long as the player's name equals Donny Bobes, doesn't matter what casing the letters are, then that's all we care about. So that is part one. And then we're going to say and, double and sign. We're going to say player dot is sneaking. So there we go. So it says, is the player's name Donny Bobes and are they sneaking? All right, and up front what we're going to do is we're going to put a double ampersand here. And on the left side of here we're going to say event dot get action, because that is the action that they're performing. We're going to say equals control space, and it brings up the list of stuff that it could be. And we're going to say left click air or event dot get action equals action dot left click block. And what we're going to do is we're going to wrap those two in parentheses. And as you can see, this is getting really long and it's kind of hard to read because some of it even goes off the page onto the side. So what we're going to do is right here, we're going to drop this down a line. And what we can do now is we can see, since these are wrapped in their own parentheses, it says, okay, if either one of these, so if the action is left clicking air or the action is left clicking a block, so if either of those occur, if they're left clicking at all basically, and the player's name is Donny Bobes and the player is sneaking, then it'll go down here and do this. So this is where we're going to put the part of the code that will actually make him lay the egg. So what we will do is we will get his position and we're going to drop an egg from that location. So that's pretty simple. You basically go player dot get world, and we're going to do dot drop item naturally. And it takes in two parameters. One is a location and one is an item stack. So the location is player dot get location. So that gets Donnie's current location. And over here, this is the item that it will actually be dropping. So we're going to create a new item stack, and we're going to pass in two parameters. Actually, you really only need one, but we're going to pass in two. We're going to put egg, because that is going to be the type. And we're going to have him drop 1. Now, as you can see here, it imported the org.bukkit.entity.egg, and that is not the one that we wanted. So that actually will not work with that. What we have to do is do material.egg. So there we go. So it's supposed to be the capital EGG. It tried to import the block egg, and that didn't really like that. Also, we need to import the item stack because you can see it doesn't know what item stack is. So we need to import that as well. And now we are good to go. So basically all that's going to happen right now is when the plugin enables, it's going to set an instance of this to itself. When it disables, it's going to turn that off. And that basically, when it gets turned on, it'll do those things. And when it's disabled, it'll do that stuff there. And when an interact event happens from a player, it's going to run this code if it's a left click at all, whether they're left clicking air or a block, and their name is Donny Bobes and they are sneaking, that it's going to drop an egg at their location. Now, we also want to do something else. We want to have it play a sound so you can hear that he's been laying an egg. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do player.getWorld, and then we're going to do .play sound. And that takes in a few parameters. The location is the first one, so player.getLocation. The second one is the sound. So what we're going to do is sound dot I forget what it's called, but it's chicken. I think it's chicken egg. Entity chicken egg. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We'll find out here in a second. And these last two are like floats. It's pitch and volume. I'm just going to leave them at 1.0 and 1.0. And that way it should play them at their normal pitch and at the max normal volume. And you can see right now it's underlined in red, and that's because they are floats, so you have to put a little F after it to tell it that it's a floating point number. So there we go. So now what it's going to do is, if all that stuff is true, then it is going to drop an egg at that location, and it is also going to play the chicken egg sound. And the problem is right now, Donnie Bopes isn't on, so in order to get this to work, we're going to put RGA Minecraft. So we're going to test this on myself. And here comes the fun part of actually building it and deploying it to your server. So in order to build this and make an actual plugin, you right click on it, go to Run As, and you do Maven install. And what it's going to do is it's going to pop up here. And you can see there's a couple errors here, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. Technically, all we have to do is, I believe we should just be able to Run As, install again. For whatever reason, the first time you create a brand new project, it does that. I don't know if it's because it hasn't created all the files or structures or something like that. So you get an error at first, try right-clicking it again, Run As, install again. And you can see I didn't change anything at all. And look at that, it worked the second time. So now it's created the file here. And if I open up this folder, basically this is where, or not that one, this one here is where the jar file is at. So basically we've got DonnieEgg v1.jar. So what I'm going to do real quick is open up a window, and I'm going to upload that to my server, and I'm going to restart that server, and we will go test this thing out. All right, dudes, so as you can see right now, I'm on Performium. Typically, my test hub is hub number 3. I actually just logged in, uploaded the plugin to there, and I am now on the server. So once that thing comes back up, which it looks like it's up now, I'm going to give this a test. So /RTP. And I'm going to teleport out into the middle of nowhere. Looks like some villagers have already been building here. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to sneak and interact with the block. So you can see I'm not dropping any eggs. So something's wrong with our code. So let me figure out what's going on with that. All right, guys, so this is where some of that troubleshooting knowledge I wanted to really hit on comes in very handy. I've actually made a very noob mistake, and I didn't even catch it until I went back and looked, and I'm like, wow, I actually really did that. So basically what happened here is I didn't actually name the project properly, and I'll show you what happened, but first let me show you how I found that. What I did is I went into the server and grabbed the current log file and did a search for DonnieEgg. So as you can see here, it's trying to load the plugin. So it's trying to load DonnieEgg. And basically, its error is it cannot find the main class, DonnieEgg.main. So basically, like, here's some very valuable information that we will probably use in future videos. But basically, it's telling me that class not found, so it's not able to find the main class. And here is why. So let me close this. When we go back to our plugin file, it's trying to find DonnieEgg.main. Okay? Now, when we go back to our main, it looks fine because it's called main. Our file is called main. But the problem is right here, it's in the default package. And what we didn't do is we didn't create a package. So basically right now it is just main. We should have told it to find main instead of DonnieEgg.main, but I don't usually like to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new package, and I'm just going to call it DonnieEgg. And I'm going to drag main into that. So now underneath DonnieEgg is main. So now if we right click, Run As, Maven install, then it's going to rebuild this, and now when I upload it, it should work. So you can see again, it's basically a new file because it got moved around. So the first time it failed, second time it built, and even if I run it the third time after this, Run As, install, it will build again. It's just for whatever reason, the first time after you change stuff like that, it usually fails. So now it's good to go. Basically, all I have to do is upload a file to the server and go back into Minecraft here and /force stop. And it looks like there's a hacker on factions. We'll get that in a sec. All right, guys, and that is why I was saying earlier that I really hope we get to go into some of these troubleshooting skills, because honestly, when it comes down to it, the coding is easy. It's really easy to code something and have it do what you want it to do. But the problem is trying to figure out when something doesn't work, why is it not working? And I'm really glad we actually got to do that. And I don't really know what the heck is up with this. This is kind of making me nervous. There's a pressure plate in the middle of here. Oh god, I don't even want to know what this is. This is kind of scary looking. Alright guys, so if everything is working properly, we should now be able to shift and click. And look at that. That is freaking awesome. So right now you can see that every time we shift click something, an egg pops out. That's pretty awesome. So thank you, Violet Raccoon, for suggesting this one. I'm going to turn off that for a second so you guys don't get flooded by chat. But yeah, so that's basically how this works. I mean, it's a really simple plugin. All you have to do is set things up, and you can do so much other stuff with this. Now, like I said, no one else will be able to come on the server and do this here. It's just going to be me. And we can get into, in future videos, we can actually change that up. So like if we wanted to make it configurable to which player would be able to do this, we could do that, but we would need a few other things, and I'm not going to cover that in this video. This video, I kind of wanted to give you an intro just to like how I do some of the stuff. Just as a quick note, there's probably a lot of people out there, and not even probably, there are a lot of people out there who are going to be constantly in the comment section, oh, you shouldn't do that, you should name it this instead, or you should do this, or you should set the code up this way, or blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. If your code works, and it works efficiently, then there's no reason that anyone should ever tell you your code is wrong. I mean, there's no right and wrong way to do code. There are ways that are a lot less efficient, but you know what? If at the end of the day, the code that you wrote actually works, then it really doesn't matter. Your code's wrong. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. Why? Why do you say it's wrong? Well, because, you know, you should have done it this way. Oh, but dude, you know what? It works. So, you know, there's gonna be a lot of people like that. So if you see stuff like that in the comments, which you will, just kind of ignore it. I ignore it. I mean, people say that stuff all the time. So one of the main reasons why I've never done a series like this so far is because there's always so many people out there that are like, oh, there's a better way to do it, man. You should do it this way. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes there are easier ways to do things, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're always better. You know, one thing that one person prefers is not always something that another guy would prefer. And we'll just keep it at that. But guys, if you do have any questions, you can try to leave it in the comments below, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. If it's too much, then I might even be able to make a small episode or something out of it. But let me know in the comments below what should be the next video idea. And right now, every time I come on the server now, I'm going to be popping eggs. I'm probably not even going to do that on purpose. I'm probably going to be like going to catch some hackers, so /TP. Let's see who's even in here. Let's TP to this guy. Yeah, see, this is probably what's going to happen. I'm going to be like sitting here. I'm going to be in the hub trying to like catch hackers or something. And where did that guy even go? /TP. Okay, so he's here. I can't even see him. What? That's weird. But I'll probably just be floating through here, and I'll be like, oh god, I just popped out eggs everywhere. Or guys, maybe if you're in the Hub 3 arena and you see eggs popping out, I love that sound for some reason. It's just so cool. But if you guys are in here and you see little eggs pop out like this guy here, he's gonna be like, what? Why are there eggs everywhere? And I just forgot, I'm not even in SV. Oh my god, RGA. Nice. Alright. Well, I'm gonna leave this here, guys. Hopefully you had fun with this video. Like I said, leave suggestions for what I should do in future videos, and I'll see you guys again later. Goodbye, everybody. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to check out one of these other videos here. I think you might like them. And if you do, don't forget to drop a like. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everybody.